Welcome to Raiders on the Record, the podcast featuring Hastings High School athletics. I'm Athletic Director Trent Hansen. My colleague Tim Hanneberg and I work together to bring you the stories of Raider sports. We are thrilled to share conversations with the athletes, coaches, and alumni that represent Raider Nation. Check back weekly and be sure to share this podcast with your friends in the Raiders Network.
Trey Rogers is a 2018 Raider graduate. Growing up, Trey moved around a lot and then landed in Hastings in 8th grade. During his high school career, Trey played football and wrestled. In football, he was a 3-year varsity starter playing linebacker, fullback, and quarterback. He was also a captain and named all-conference during his senior year. In wrestling, Trey was a 4-year starter and all-state 3 times, placing 4th, 2nd, and 1st. He was a multiple-time captain and multiple-time all-conference recipient. Trey currently attends Hoftra University, where he wrestles, and is a pre-med major. He was a Division I National Qualifier last year and will be soon applying to med schools. All right, here we are with Trey Rogers. Trey, to get started, we ask a couple background questions to get a little more background info on you. So let's start back from the beginning. Tell us about your family growing up. Did you always live in Hastings? When did you move to Hastings? Tell us about your mom, your dad, where they grew up, where they worked, brothers, sisters, anything like that. Like I said, your life growing up.
Okay, yeah. So I kind of lived around a little bit. I was born in a small town in Missouri. Then I moved to Cottage Grove, Minnesota for a little while. Then after that, I went to Texas. Then after that, I went to Rogersville, Missouri. Went to middle school in Rogersville. And then whenever I moved to Hastings was 8th grade with me and my father. We moved up to Hastings. We were welcomed into the family right away. My dad worked for 3M, so we were always kind of moving around. If he'd have a new job every 2 or 3 years, so we got to go around, meet new people. My mom, she's a nurse, graduated from Oklahoma University. She works in an oncology unit. See some pretty cool stuff. Make some fun relationships there. Then my sister, she is, 25 now, I suppose. So she's a couple years older than me. She just graduated with her master's from Arkansas University. She's a speech pathologist. So she works with kids. She loves it. She has good patience for that. I would never think she would, but she's really good at that. She's enjoying that. She's got a new dog, actually. Name is Lottie. I didn't love the name, but it's a cute little dog. I got a stepdad named Dave. Dave's the man. He actually, my mom and Dave just moved out to kind of the countryside a little bit. They've been there for probably 8 or 9 months now. They got like 20 chickens. They got 5 goats. They got like 12 dogs. There's around a little ranch there. So that's my growing up. That's my family.
Sweet. So you moved to Hastings while you're in 8th grade. So you attended our middle school and then our high school. Just give us a little snapshot. What did the high school look like for you in the middle school? Maybe some, there's a lot of teachers that listen to this. And then maybe talk about some of your favorite teachers, maybe that one year in 8th grade. Talk about some of your favorite teachers in high school. And then give us a graduation year of your high school.
Goodness. 8th grade. Yeah, that was a while ago. It was a good time. I was very welcomed. I remember a lot of familiar faces. I remember my first week there, Coach McClay offered to take me in because my dad had to go work. So we went to the Rockies pool and it was freezing. It was like super cold that day. He's like, "Oh, let's go swimming." Well, 8th grade me, I didn't want to say no. So we went swimming. And I feel like that was just a good picture of my time at Hastings. Like I was just immediately welcomed into the community. Anytime I ever needed anything, there was just a phone call away. So yeah, middle school was a good time. Goodness, that was a while ago.
It was a while ago, but like I said, we could just stick to high school too. Any kind of major teachers that stuck out to you that really had a big impact on you that you really liked while you attended school there? What do you think?
There's a lot of them, yeah. First comes to mind is Miss Benson. Now that I'm in the chemistry classes, I'm looking back into AP chemistry with her, and That was a good time with her. She always had a bright smile and was always happy. Peer helper program, Miss Schill. She was obviously a great person to have around. She was very positive as well, very happy. And if I ever needed anything, I knew Miss Schill was there. Mr. Lutz, A push. We got J Wash. Got a lot of good memories in A push. Of course, Mr. Dressen, a classic. All his classic one-liners that he comes up with. Man, Mr. Colvin and Psych. I don't know. You can keep going.
That's a lot. No, that's a lot, but yeah, that's a good amount. So, all right, this is mainly a sports podcast, so we circle around sports a lot. What do you think growing up was one of your earliest or one of your best sports memories?
Yes, one of my favorite memories playing sports was my first state tournament as a kid. So this was when we were still in Missouri, and we were a really small town, and our wrestling program was pretty new. And I wasn't anything good. It was my first year, and I just managed to make it to state somehow. And I was the only one that qualified from our club. And then actually our high school coach, he came along with me and my dad, because my dad, he'd never wrestled before. He didn't know what was going on. So his coach tagged along with us. We drove up together at the state tournament. I went 0-2, which was tough. The first kid, his name was TJ Rice, and he was tough. He was really good. He really put it on me. Then the second match, I lost on clasping, actually. You don't know much about wrestling. It's where you wrap your hands around the body, and you're on top of mine. Can't do that. I did it 3 or 4 times. I didn't know what was happening. And the high school coach is like yelling at me. He's just like, stand him up, like, don't do it again. So that was a fun memory. But looking back, I remember it really meant a lot that the high school coach came up, because I know how busy high school coaches are and how much they're running around and spending time away from their family. So for him to kill a weekend traveling away from us, or traveling with me to that state tournament, that really meant a lot. And that was kind of a special memory to me.
All right, last one here on the background info. You could pick a couple of these. You don't have to answer every single one. If you want to, you can't really decide either. You could grab a couple of them if you really wanted to. So talking about your favorite stuff. So what's your favorite movie, your favorite food, your favorite author, your favorite artist, and your favorite time of the year?
Okay. All right. So food. I live on Long Island now, where I go to school, and there is a halal truck that is right by campus. So halal is like, it means it's a type of meat that's killed a certain way so that people of Islam can eat it. So it goes along with their values and what they believe in. And it's absolutely delicious. You can get like lamb over rice or like chicken over rice. And they got this white sauce and this hot sauce. It's phenomenal. And I eat it probably 4 or 5 times a week. I was actually there today, and I went a little earlier than usual. And my guy's like, "Hey, what are you doing here so early? Like, what are you doing?" So it's like, it's a good time.
So it's on a first name basis now? You and the halal
exactly.
guy? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yep. I just show up and he starts cooking. He doesn't even ask what I want anymore. So we got a good setup there. My favorite author, David Goggins. I just recently read his book. Super enlightening book if you've never read it. It is, where is it? I have it right here. Whatever. It's a great book. A lot of good facts in there and a lot of good things to have a hard mind. Favorite time of year, I would have to say spring. Really good vibes. You know, we're wrapping up the wrestling season. So you got NCAAs, you got state, you got all that. And it's a great time for training. You know, you get the postseason. You're not worried about competing. You're just worrying about getting better. And then you're kind of wrapping up the school semester. You know, everyone's coming outside. Everyone's starting to enjoy the weather. Yeah. Any more?
I know your favorite movie is a Rocky series, but we'd kind of inside joke, but that's okay. I know it's definitely not the Rocky series. So
yeah, it's not. Nope.
Yeah. But anyway, I couldn't agree more with you on the time of the year too. I feel the same exact way. The spring, the weather's nice. Everyone's getting outside. Everything's kind of melting. You know, everything's kind of starting to grow again. It's just that like kind of rebirth feeling, you know, it's just the restart of the year. So I definitely agree with you. So let's go back then. You know, since you moved to Hastings, we could start a little earlier if you wanted to. Let's go back to maybe the beginning too. Some of the sports you played growing up. I know at the high school level you played football and you wrestled, but talk about some other sports you might have played growing up. And then we could stop kind of around 8th grade when you got to Hastings. And then maybe talk about too any major accomplishments that went along with those sports growing up. And then when did you start getting more serious about those sports that you played as well?
Okay. Yeah. So when I was really young, I was kind of like the classic kid playing all the sports, soccer, baseball, t-ball, flag football. But I really loved baseball when I was a kid. So like kind of elementary age up until like 13 or 14, I was just all about baseball. Played for a few years. It was basically year round. I got burnt out pretty quick. And around the same times whenever I started wrestling, I met the wrestling coach at a football event, and he was handing out flyers for this little wrestling camp. So I decided I would sign up, showed up. So baseball, when I was young, I really enjoyed it. I was playing a few years up. So I was kind of 10 playing with 12-year-olds, or 12 playing with 14-year-olds. But I just kind of got burned out. I didn't really enjoy it as much as I really did, or as much as I thought it did. And that's whenever I really bought into wrestling. And then I'd probably say around 6th or 7th grades, whenever I really started to lock in on wrestling and football. It wasn't that I wanted to focus on those sports solely. I would have been open to more sports, but those were kind of my two sports I was really passionate about.
Gotcha. So then we get to the middle school. You moved to Hastings in 8th grade. Obviously, we'll go through the two sports that you played there, football and wrestling, and talk about what level you played each year, any major accomplishments that went along with that. And then you could just roll right into 9th grade. You could go through, if you want to go through football, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. If you want to talk about football and wrestling from each grade too, you can go for it any way you want. So talk about each of those sports and like I said, the kind of journey through that late middle school and high school, anything that went along with those sports too, any major accomplishments that went along with them as well.
Okay. Yeah. So 8th grade, like you said, it was really football and wrestling. And I would say my main focus was really wrestling. That whenever I was working out in the off season, it was for wrestling. It wasn't necessarily for football. But when it was football season, we really focused on football and doing that. So for football, my 8th grade year, I played quarterback, linebacker, just on the middle school team. Then my freshman year, played on the freshman team. Sophomore year, I think it's for about half the year I played on the sophomore team, and then I got pulled up to start on varsity where I played linebacker. Then junior and senior year, I was back up, I guess junior year, I was the starting linebacker, and I played a little bit of fullback as well. And then senior year, I actually played quarterback. I was a starting quarterback. And then towards the end of the year, I was a quarterback and linebacker. So that was fun. I really enjoyed senior year, kind of getting to play all that. But I was captain my senior year for football. I want to say I was probably all conference as well. Yeah, I think that was kind of my accomplishments there. It was kind of fun to start and be a leader on the team. Then for wrestling in 8th grade, I wrestled JV. Yeah, I got pulled up, wrestled a lot of JV. Actually undefeated on JV that year. I was very excited about that.
Well, I'll make sure I put that record up in the room for you. So don't worry.
Yeah, you don't want to get that one down.
Yeah.
Write that down. And then that year is whenever I got second at 9U State, right?
Yeah. We don't have to go through the match in the finals. That one still haunts me, but we can still bury that one. Yeah. We can bury that one. We can move right on.
Yeah. Then 9th grade, I was a starter at 152, I think. And then didn't qualify for state that year. I lost a true second match pretty quick. I got pinned. Yeah. That's tough. And then sophomore year, I was a starter. Ended up taking 4th at state sophomore year. The junior year, made it to the finals. Got pinned pretty early by Mr. Brandon Moen, which was very unfortunate. Then senior year, I wrestled 195 and won state that year. I was a 2-time captain. Man, anything else? I had the takedown record. I was really excited about the takedown record. Yeah. Can't forget about that one.
Single season takedown record. Yep.
Yep. And I didn't get all time, right? Luke still had that by quite a few.
Yeah, you're a couple hundred behind them, but you did demolish the single season takedown record. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so that was that. That was my high school career.
Nice. So looking back at your high school career, 2 different questions. Try to split them up if you can. What do you think was one of the most rewarding parts of being a high school athlete at Hastings High School? And then what do you think one of your favorite moments was as a high school athlete?
Yep. Okay, so the most rewarding part, I would say that'd be the relationships that I developed along the way. I was very close with all my coaches, with my teammates. I still stay in contact with a lot of them now, and a lot of the youngsters that came in and out of the room. Um, I was one of those, and whenever the older guys would come in, that was always fun. So now whenever I'm the older guy and I get to go in and see all the little guys, that's really fun. And I think that just talks about the wrestling community and how tight it is, and how there's generations that come through and they give back. So that was a really rewarding part, is just getting to meet all these people who welcome me right in. That's something that I'm very, very grateful now. And I always think about the golf outing. That's one of my favorite times of the year, because it's whenever all of Hastings wrestling comes back together. And it's just kind of a good time to share stories and talk about the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I ever need anything, there's 100 people I could text, So that'd probably be the most rewarding part, is just developing those relationships. And then favorite moment as an athlete, I would have to say that was the state tournament my senior year. I was coming in as a 1 seed and felt that winning state was just kind of mine. Like, it was, no one else was there. It was just for me to go win it. It was a very special moment walking out onto the mats, the Hastings mats, if you remember, because we had all 3 mats in the finals. Yep. So it was with you and McClay. It was this really special moment walking out there. I wasn't really nervous. I just kind of felt like it was mine to take. So I was kind of, enjoying it with you and McClay. That was a very special moment. And then, I won the match. It was a really special moment whenever I ran over to you and McClay and gave you all some hugs. I just remember a memory I reflect on, just because all 3 of us had been through it in Hastings, and it was a very special moment to get to spend with you guys.
Yeah. So skip ahead a little bit. Talk about the improvement process. So you're talking about coming in as an 8th grader. You played football every single year. So if you want to talk about, I think you kind of mentioned too that your kind of sole focus was wrestling. So I know a lot of the improvement you might have had for football kind of along the way was that work you were putting in with your focus on wrestling. So you come in maybe 8th grade for wrestling, you're on the JV, and then 9th grade hits and you don't even make it to the state tournament. You're a varsity starter, but you don't make it. You're 1 match away. You go from there to 4th at the state tournament, to in the finals, to first place. So you made some gradual jumps every single year. You never had a plateau. It was never that kind of giant. Maybe that 9th to 10th grade was kind of a bigger jump, but what kind of went into that process? Was a lot of summer training, spring training, a lot of time in the weight room. What did that look like throughout those 4 or 5 years?
Yep. So like you said about football, it kind of followed along with my progression of wrestling. Like I said, whenever I was like going to lift, it was because, all right, I'm going to lift so that I can win a match in March. It wasn't because I wanted to be better at football, but of course lifting's going to help you in football anyways. So it was just kind of a side effect. But I think my progression in wrestling was just kind of I think it just speaks to the consistency that the coaches really pushed on us, that, in the spring we do freestyle and Greco. And in the summer, we're consistently coming in for a workout. It was 4 or 5 times a week, and one day it would be kind of a fun day. So I think it just speaks to the consistency that the coaching staff gave us. Every day we're progressing towards something. McClay always talked about getting 1% better each year, or each day. And so I think a lot of it was that. And also, sometimes I look back and wonder if maybe I had the potential, my sophomore year, and I could have done my sophomore year. I just didn't believe enough. And I think that's a lot of it, is that each year I believed in myself more and more. So of course I was just naturally getting better at wrestling and developing my style as a wrestler. But at the same time, sometimes I look back and wonder, well, man, what if I just wanted it worse my sophomore year? What if I just wanted to believe harder my sophomore year, and I would have, I had the ability to do it, I just didn't have the belief. So that's something that I think about, that even though it was a natural progression, I think maybe if I just believed like I did my senior year, if I believed like that, my freshman year, maybe I would have placed or whatever it might be. So I think that was a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think coaching you, I can remember looking back on your high school career and kind of see what you're talking about. But I remember the one time maybe that when that belief really took hold was we were at the Kiffmeyer tournament up in St. Cloud, and you had 3 barn burner matches all day long, 3 super tough kids, and you went boom, 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 and just beat the crap out of all 3 kids. It was really cool to see. The St. Cloud Tech kid was pretty tough too. and he just absolutely ran out of gas. The Foley kid, I'm pretty sure he was puking almost on the mat or right off the mat, and he could barely make it back to the middle. You broke that kid and won that match. And there might have been one more in there too. I think maybe just mollywopped the last kid. I think it was Albert Lee or something like that. And he just maybe mollywopped him. But I remember that. It's kind of what you're saying, that moment when we knew you were going to kind of have that success, but it was just that belief kind of was not proven. I guess what I'm trying to say is just it showed that day.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I actually think about that tournament pretty often, about that Kiffmeyer, because it was a time that I beat someone I wasn't supposed to. So I kind of use that to, whenever I'm wrestling someone who I'm not supposed to beat, I kind of use that like, well, I've done this before. It's the Kiffmeyer. I'm not supposed to beat this kid, but I just go out and let it go and don't think about it. And that was kind of you're right. I think that was a big turning point for me, just mentally, that I could do it.
So you played sports for Hastings in the middle school. You played 2 sports, and you played football and wrestled in high school as well. So you had a lot of different coaches throughout your 4 or 5 years here in Hastings. Who do you think, this is a very tough question, who do you think was one of the best coaches you played for? They really taught you something that really stuck in your life, that really you hold true to this day as well. So who do you think that coach is?
That is
you
really
don't
tough.
have to say me just because we're doing this here. That would be the easy answer. So don't take the easy way out here. Really, really dig deep into this one.
Yeah. Like you said, I'll give you 3 and then I'll pick my 1. So of course you, and then Coach Veit and Coach McClay. Those have been my 3 coaches throughout, and I've developed close relationships with all of you. But I would have to say that Coach McClay was probably my most impactful. Just because he really, I don't know, it's Coach McClay. Like, it's hard to articulate it, but he's just an excellent person for the job. Man, he just has the right mentality, like a grinding mentality, and he really ingrained that into me. That to find success, you got to really grind through it, and then on the same side, you got to believe in yourself. And he's still someone I talk to a lot for wrestling advice. And if I ever need a new workout, I'll hit him up. Or if I ever have a question of, this isn't really working for me, what should I do? He just has a very deep knowledge of wrestling, and I knew same with all 3 of you, but I knew he really cared about me a lot, and that whenever we were doing something, it was because he had my best interest in mind, and that who I am, I'm very questioning, and I like to know like why we're doing stuff. But whenever he said to do something, it was like, all right, well, we're doing that. If he wants me to do it, then it's probably going to work. So he's someone that's really had a big impact on me, both my mindset of just doing things right and being a good person, being a good man, as well as wrestling, teaching me the technique, what I need to do to be better. So I have to go with Coach McClay on that one.
For sure. Same kind of question now, think about the people you played with. So if you want to pick someone from football and someone from wrestling, or maybe there's some crossover in both, that's okay. So who do you think one of the best teammates you played with would be? And I think there's a lot of different categories I bring up when this question comes up. That person that maybe was an older athlete that you kind of looked up to and modeled your behaviors. Maybe it was someone that you just were having a hard time and they were a shoulder to cry on. Maybe it was that drilling partner where you just kind of grinded it out with them, and you kind of grinded and grew together. So a lot of different kind of categories for best teammate, but who do you think that person would be?
Yep. I think this one's a little easier. I would go with TJ Pottinger. We were the same year, 8th grade. Right away, I noticed him, that he was a hard worker, and he kind of had the same goals and same mindset. It really became the best of friends. Excuse me. We're both grinders. We both loved to get extra workouts in, loved winning, worked hard in school. We just had a lot in common, and I think that's why we kind of naturally clicked. And we'd do whatever it took to be great. There would be a lot of times that I'd break into the wrestling room to get an extra workout in, and TJ was already there working out. So I think that kind of reflected why both of us were nominated captains in football and wrestling. And they actually called us Trey J senior year, if you remember that, just because we were so that was fun. There was one football game, as we were walking out to shake hands, the crowd was chanting Trey J, and that was fun. But with that, we kind of had like a little unspoken competition going like 24/7. we never talked about it, but I'm kind of sure that he felt the same way. That, we pushed each other in everything we did. GPAs, weight room, sprints, live goes, girlfriends. Even though he did win the girlfriend one, I'll give him that one. He had two pretty solid ones. But everything was kind of a competition between us, and we'd punch each other in the face to win. But at the end of the day, I knew we were brothers. So he was a great teammate who really pushed me mentally and physically. And then if you look at us now, we both played a Division I sport, both Division I wrestling, and we've set ourselves up very well to get into medical school. So I think it kind of just proves the relationship we had 8th grade and how much we pushed each other to succeed.
For sure. So you take fourth at the state tournament your sophomore year, second your junior year, you win it your senior year. Talk about what the recruiting process was like for you. Where were you looking? Where did you end up? And then you're close, not really too close, but kind of getting to the end of your college career right now. So if you want to run through that college career for us, your major, where you go, how wrestling has gone for the last couple of years, and what you're going to do in the future. Let's hear all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So the recruitment process, I really started whenever I sat down with Mr. Veit, and he, with this classic Mr. Veit wisdom, he said, "What are your 5 pillars? Like, what are the 5 things you want in a school that are non-negotiable?" So I wrote those down, and then he actually printed off a list of all Division I wrestling programs, and we sat down and we crossed out each single one. So then it kind of got down to a list, and those were kind of our starting schools. And it started with Ivy League schools. It was really Harvard, Columbia, Penn a little bit. There's one more, I think
think you were looking at Brown maybe too, or no?
Brown. Yes, that's what it was. Yep. So it started with those schools, and those were kind of what I was looking for. They had pretty good wrestling programs, excellent academics, but financially didn't really work out because they can't give athletic scholarships, and then we wouldn't receive financial aid. So we've been paying a lot of money to go there. So then once the process kind of got on, it really came down to Hofstra, North Dakota State, Stanford, and Iowa State a little bit. So those are kind of the 4 schools. Obviously ended up at Hofstra, and I think it was really the Hofstra community. It was a very small, kind of tight-knit community that reminded me of Hastings a little bit. The coach came from Long Island, came and visited me, sat in my living room, and we talked for a while. I thought I connected with him very well, and that he had the same values and what I wanted to do. And I really like the location. I'm in Long Island, New York. It's about 20 miles from New York City, so we got a lot of culture. We're like 15 minutes from the beach. There's a lot to do around here, so that was another attractive thing. And at the time, I knew I thought I wanted to go to medical school, and now I kind of know I want to get to medical school. So I have 2 majors. One's pre-med studies, and the other's biochemistry. And I will start applying for medical school this summer.
Nice. Anything else about the process or post high school? Anything else you kind of we'll kind of put a bow on this area, but anything else you want to wrap up with your like I said, post high school, college, your major, what are you looking for in the future? Middle school schools you're looking at, or what that process is going to look like?
Yeah. So the what else? Yeah, the medical school process it's pretty extensive. I took the MCAT this past summer. It went very well, and then now I am beginning my application process. There's quite a few schools I'm looking at, but I think Baylor University, they have a very good program. Be interested there. Brown, they have a good medical school that is kind of on par with what I'm looking for. And then Boston also has a pretty top-notch medical school. So we'll see where I end up. Those are just kind of the 3 that are in my mind, but we'll see.
All right. And then talk about the wrestling in college too. What does that look like for you? And then maybe just compare that to high school wrestling. What are the big similarities? What are some differences? Maybe, is there a huge difference between practices? What does competition look like? What's the intensity look like? Just maybe walk through a little bit of what that kind of scene looks like.
Yep. So initially, the biggest difference I'd say is with high school, you're in school for 7 hours every day. then you go straight to wrestling practice for 2 hours. Then you get home and you eat, and next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock. With college, you have a lot more time on your own, which can be good or bad depending on how you use it. So a usual day, we'll have lift in the morning, 6 a.m., 6:30. Then you kind of have class in the morning, maybe some in the afternoon. Then we have practice in the afternoon. But really, you have a lot of downtime. Like at most, I probably have 3 or 4 hours of class a day. So you have plenty of time to get extra workouts in with a coach, or to just kind of do what you need. If you need to do rehab, if you need to get an extra lift in, it's really on you to use your resources and to do what you need to succeed. And of course, that can be kind of dangerous if you misuse it. It's very easy to sit down and watch 8 episodes of a show and then kill the whole day. But then I would say practices are a little more intense because you have a lot of people who are very like-minded and don't really like losing, so we can get into it a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think I was very close with my teammates in high school, but I feel that I'm much closer with them now that we're in college, because we're kind of like our own little crew. Like we don't have of course I have my parents, I could call them and text them, but it's like they're my new family. I spend time with them all the time. I go eat with them every day. I'm always going to class or whatever it might be. So I've developed a lot more close relationship with my teammates now. And then I think competing, it just feels a little more intense for some reason. I can't explain it, but it's a higher level of competition. So every day you're wrestling, a state champion from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But that's just what comes along with it.
Nice. All right, Trey, last 2 questions then for you to wrap this up. So first one, both are a little similar, but just a little different kind of take on them. So first one, if you could give parents or coaches 2 pieces of advice from your experiences, what do you think they would be and why?
Yep. So this is something that we did early in my career, Tim, if you remember. After each practice or game or match or whatever it was, we would sit down and name 3 things that went well, 3 things that did not go well, 3 things to work on in the future. Mm-hmm. So I thought this was very helpful to see that, hey, I'm improving and the process is working, but there's still certain things that can be improved. And I think sitting down and talking through is very valuable as well, because it forces you to articulate it, must articulate what you need to work on and what you're doing well. Because sometimes it's usually like, oh yeah, like we'll work on that next time. Whenever you sit down and say, all right, well, I need to work on my pop to a single leg or my sprawl and get into the corner. I think sitting down and speaking it makes it real and makes it a point of emphasis. So I think that's important. 3 things you did well. Say, hey, we're still doing well. I'm not bad at wrestling. Something that we didn't do well, something that we need to work on. And then 3 things to work on in the future. So a plan for the future. Then the second piece of advice, kind of cheesy, but to not lose sight of the journey. It's so true. I don't want to discredit setting goals and achieving them. But sometimes my coach talks about the good old days at Hofstra. Realistically, not everyone's going to be a state champ or an All-American, but everyone's going to have the memories of the good old days, hanging out with your buddies on the bus and kind of the funny stories in the locker room. So of course we're working to be state champs and All-Americans. But something that kind of helped me that my coach here at Hofstra said is you have to make it feel like it's life or death in the moment. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that it's just a game. So whenever you're wrestling, it's like, man, if I lose this match, I'm going to die. Man, if I lose, well, it's just a game. Like we're just out here wrestling. So that's what I would say. Those would be my 2 for coaches and parents.
Yeah, for sure. I still remember doing those, the 3 questions with you, because I just feel like so many times at practice, it's just so easy to focus on the negative, like it's, this is not working. This is not going the right way. I'm getting beat up by this kid. And especially when you're a younger guy and you're wrestling the older guys in the room, you're just not having a lot of success right away. So I think it's good to always, focus on the positive, like, hey, these couple things went good. And that could, like for wrestling, I mean, that could be, I touched a guy's leg, I got in on a single leg and I might not even finish, but that's just that initial step, and then, You have 3 things that you can work on. And like you said, always look into the future, and just like your college coach says, focus on the journey. So I just always think it was just something really good to kind of help you out at that time too. So that's something I'm going to have to go back to now. So thanks for reminding me. All right. Last
Yeah.
one then for you, Trey. 2 pieces of advice for student athletes. So if you could talk to these kids right now in high school, you come back to our room and you're talking to these kids, or you come back to the football field, what would you tell them and why?
Yeah. So the first one would be, what do you tell yourself when you're tired, or what do you tell yourself when you're down? It's something that I've been working on and thinking on myself. It's a really valuable time when you're tired in a live go, or that you've been in the library all day, or you're on the last mile of a run, or whatever it might be. Like, what are you telling yourself in that moment? We've all been on both sides of it. Can I have 2 examples for both sides of it? So each year we do this workout on the Jacob's ladder. If you've never seen it, it's kind of like a treadmill, but like a ladder, and it's incredibly difficult. Like, it sounds like, oh yeah, I could do that. It is stupid hard. So we do 1,000 feet as fast as you can, and it usually only takes like 7 or 8 minutes. But after you get off, you're just actually dead. So I don't know why, but I'm pretty good at it for some reason. I usually get pretty good times. So my junior year, I did it really well. I got it in like 5 minutes and 45 seconds or whatever it was. So then this past year, my senior year, I went to do it, and I remember in the middle of it, I was thinking of how tired I was. Like, I wasn't going to be my time from last season. How like, well, I'm already good at it. Doesn't matter if I do well on this one. I was just telling myself the wrong thing. Like, I actually thought about quitting in the middle of it, because I'm like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm really tired and I'm not even going to be my time. And of course I got, about 20 seconds slower. And it wasn't because my legs were any weaker or because I wasn't in shape. It was because the whole time I was telling myself how much it sucked, and that reflected in my time. And then another time that I was on the other side of it, I was wrestling a kid that on paper I wasn't supposed to beat. And I was actually just coming off a close loss a few hours before. And then, so I'm in the second match. It's a kid I'm not supposed to beat. Next thing I know, it's the third period, and I have an opportunity to win. And then again, I specifically remember telling myself over and over that I could beat this kid, that I wasn't tired, and that I was going to get the takedown. I think that was really it was really valuable, because in the moment, I actually went back and I looked at the video, and I could see myself like talking through it. Like, I was saying, you can get this takedown. Like, I'm not tired. So I think verbally saying it out loud makes it real. I just kept saying, I'm not tired. Like, I love this. I'm going to beat this kid. And of course I got the takedown, beat the kid. It was a really fun win. So I think, what do you tell yourself when you're tired? And next time you're tired, think of that, and maybe you'll try to diverge to a positive thought.
Yeah, so sorry, go for it. I was gonna say, maybe if I can interrupt real quick. What do you think? Putting you on the spot here. You say you're on that Jacob's ladder and you're really tired and you're going through those negative thoughts in your head. I guess recognizing it is the first step. But what would you do to like change that then? So like I think a lot of these kids in our high school, we're talking about student athletes right now. They don't have that kind of experience, right? They've never been pushed maybe that hard to experience maybe that kind of level of tiredness, or maybe the competition level is not that high. So when they get in a situation like that, they might crumble or fail. So you're recognizing it, you're recognizing that negative language or that negative body language is going on. How do you change that? What would you say from your experiences? What's some way to change that right in the spot?
Yeah. So, like you said, the first part is recognizing that you are having negative thoughts, and a lot of times it goes unnoticed just because it like builds up to it. I think like when we're running at the end of practice, like, I'm just like, man, why are we running? Like, well, I wrestle, I don't run. What are we running for? And like right there, that's a negative thought. Why are you thinking that? So I think the first thing, you're right, is to recognize it. And then, another thing that I worked on that kind of helped me is I kind of developed a little mantra. It's like my freshman year. I forget where I read it, but it said, like, if you're struggling, like if you're thinking, bad thoughts, why are we doing this? I'm tired. Just get one phrase and repeat it over and over to yourself. Just focus on that one phrase and you'll get through whatever you're doing. I forget what mine was. It was like, it's like, I love hard work and this helps. whatever it was, just repeating that over and over.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a very useful thing for me because it kind of changed my mindset to focus on what I'm telling myself. By forcing yourself to repeat something over and over, it forces yourself to think about, about changing what you're thinking. So I think that's really big. It's a really big thing that I've been working on myself. Is whenever I'm getting tired, or even if I'm going into a workout and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to be here. And everyone has those thoughts, but you gotta redirect that energy into something positive.
Okay. Gotcha. I like that mantra. That's nice.
Yeah. Then my second piece of advice, it is that everything carries over and everything adds up. So for example, if you're cutting corners in the classroom, I think to myself that that's going to carry over to my athletics as well. If you're lazy in one thing, that's probably going to carry over into everything else you're doing. So one thing that McClay told us about was Dak Prescott. Whenever he threw a cup into a trash can, missed it, there was a bunch of other cups right by the trash can, but he went and picked his up and threw it away. So that's just kind of an example of doing everything right all the time. And I think that's important, that if you are doing things right at home, if you're making your bed, keeping your room clean, it's going to carry over to class. You're going to be taking all your notes. You're going to be doing tests. You're doing everything right. And then, think about conditioning. Is it a big deal for your conditioning that you didn't go the extra 2 inches? Probably not. Like realistically, it doesn't matter if you actually touch the line or if you're, 6 inches away from the line. It probably doesn't matter. But that mentality of cutting corners and not doing everything right, it's really going to cripple you when you need it. So everyone talks about controlling what you can control. You can control doing everything right, doing all the reps in a set, running through the line, picking up after yourself, making your bed, taking notes all the time. And if you think about it, people who are very successful in one thing are very successful in many other things. And it's not because they're better than everyone else, it's just because they do things right all the time. Which kind of in a roundabout way gets me to my other thing, is that everything adds up, both positive and negative. Again, my coach here at Hoftra really emphasizes that all the extra workouts, getting a full night of sleep, eating the right things, doing what you need to, everything's going to add up for the positive. But on the other hand, eating a pint of ice cream, missing an assignment, skipping reps, that's going to take away from it too. So everything you do is going to add up, or it's going to take away.
Got it. That is awesome. That is perfect stuff. So Trey, that's all I got for you. I took a lot of your time up. So the last thing here is the mic is yours. Anything else you want to add in? Anything I forgot to ask you? Anything else you want to throw in there? You could go for it.
Yeah, I do. I got one more thing,
All right.
Stop talking to your off. So remember I talked about the David Goggins Can't Be Hurt. Highly recommend that book. If you haven't read it, you should really get a hold of it. He actually talks about self-talk a lot, and he's ran ultra marathons, and he talks about what he told himself and how he made it through it. But one thing that I've kind of thought of and have kind of done to a certain extent, but never articulated and really placed an emphasis on, he called it the cookie jar. So you think about all the hard things you've been through, the failures that you've overcame, the hard workouts, the life obstacles you've battled. So you take all that success and you put that in a cookie jar. And whenever you're smoked during a workout, or you're facing adversity and you're doubting yourself, you reach into the cookie jar and remember the times that you succeeded. You channel that, and then you use that to overcome whatever you're working on. So a little example for you. So there's this workout with a treadmill. You put it on 10 incline and 10 speed. You 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Again, just a stupid workout. Only takes 20 minutes, but whenever you get off, like, you actually feel like you're gonna die. But a lot of times during matches, that's in my cookie jar. If I'm getting tired, like, man, we still have 2 minutes left. Like, well, I can't make 2 minutes. Reach into the cookie jar and, man, like, well, I did 10 by 10. Like, that's not a problem. This is nothing compared to the treadmill workout. So that's just one example. Another I have is, like I said, I took the MCAT this September, and again, just a stupid exam. It's like 7 or 8 hours long, covers all the classes that you've taken in college. Just a ridiculous exam. Because whenever I'm in class, we have a hard exam coming up, or I'm not really understanding a concept, I think, like, man, this doesn't compare to the MCAT. Like, I crush the MCAT. I can do this too. So the MCAT's in my cookie jar as well. So it's kind of one thing to think is what's in your cookie jar, and when do you need to get something out of it?
Nice. I love that idea. Trey, once again, anything else you want to throw in there? Anything else you want to add? Any other shout outs? Anything, like I said, anything I missed? You can go for it right now.
I think that's good. I don't know. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah. Well, here we go. How did my high school experience prepare me for where I'm at today? We'll throw that in there and we'll wrap it up. So I think high school career is really just a similar experience of where I'm at now. It's just at a higher level. You know, I'm still working hard at school, working hard in practice. But like I said, there's a lot more free time in college, and you have to pick what you do with it. And if you think about it in high school, you know, like I said, you have the 7-hour days and you have practice, and then you go home, you have a little bit of free time. You know, you could mess around with your pals, or you could do what you need to get done. But the difference is you don't have your parents there to kind of tell you, hey, you should be doing this, you know? So I think it's a good habit in high school. If you're in high school now, that's a good thing to practice, is kind of being your own enforcer to an extent, that whenever you need to get something done, you need to know that you get it done, and then you go and get it done. Because whenever you get into the real world, I guess I'm not really in the real world either, but once you get there, you're not going to have anyone who cares if you wake up late or if you kind of skip class. No one really cares. You know, it's on you. So I think that's something to work on early and something to develop while you still have the chance.
You think sports in high school helped you really develop that? Because I know from my experience coaching, a lot of times people think like, oh, I can't do a sport right now, I'm so busy, or I really want to focus on my academics, and I got this thing going on, this thing. But I know for me, coaching and me as an athlete too, I know I was locked in during my season, you know, so I had to be so diligent with every single minute. There was no mess around time either, you know, so just kind of throwing that back at you. Do you think sports is something that really helped you prepare for that, and it really helped you kind of manage that time management skills?
Yeah, absolutely. If you ever heard of Keizan Clark, he was just in the national finals, and he's in law school right now, which is like absolutely bananas to me, because I'm wrestling and he's at a higher level than I am, and I'm in school and he's at a higher level than I am. So whenever I think like, man, I don't know if I can do this, I think, oh man, he's in law school and he's winning a lot of matches. But yes, I for sure think it does, especially in college. Whenever, I'll give you an example. If 1 week, say I have a lab due on Thursday and I have a paper to do on Wednesday, but we have class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we have practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, I can't wait until Wednesday to start that paper, because I'm not going to have time to do it. Like, there's physically not going to be enough time for me to do that paper. So I think kind of having both academics and athletics, they balance each other out in two ways. On the one hand, whenever I am in class or if I'm in the library, I'm focused on that. You know, I'm not thinking about wrestling, or I'm not thinking about, the tournament I have this weekend. On the other hand, when I'm in practice, if I'm lifting, I'm focused on that. I'm not worried about any exams or any labs that are coming up. So they work kind of hand in hand, that if I'm not doing one, I'm focusing on the other. And on the other hand, they kind of force each other to happen. If I have class from 9:40 to 1, well, I better work out before class, because I'm not going to have time later on, because I have to do this paper later too. So it kind of forces you to get both of them done. And if you don't, then you're in trouble and you won't succeed.
All right, wonderful. All right, Trey, anything else you got for me here? Like I said, the mic is yours. Any other shout outs, any other tidbits, any other nuggets of gold you got over there on Long Island for us?
I don't think I do.
Awesome.
I think that'll do it.
Perfect. Thanks, Trey.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it.